What will you discover at Luray Caverns? From the tippy tops of their ropes course, breathtaking views of the Shenandoah Valley, from deep down below in the caverns, wonder and awe from all the formations built over billions of years. And in the spaces in between, you can walk through history, see the evolution of the automobile, and even meet the mayor of Toy Town Junction. Open 365 days a year, discover the perfect holiday adventure the whole family will love at Luray Caverns. Plan your trip at luraycaverns.com. Today on CityCast Philly, we're talking about the estimated 25,000 people who are released from prison each year and return to their communities in Philly. Statistics from the state show that 2/3 of people who are released end up back in prison. So I'm speaking with two city officials who have a new initiative to try to address the problem of reentry.
My name is Pamela Superville. My current title in the Office of Reentry Partnerships is Deputy Director.
My name is Desmond McKinson. My title is the NRC Manager for the city. These are neighborhood resource centers that are reentry focused, one-stop shops for everything reentry.
It's Wednesday, October 30th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. I can't imagine that re-entering is an easy process for some people impacted by the justice system. Ms. Pam, if you're comfortable to share with me what you learned from being formerly incarcerated to re-entering.
What I learned, and I'm still learning every day, I just had a conversation with a young man who just came home. I've been home about almost 20 years now. And what I keep learning is that there is still a huge need of reentry services that justice-impacted individuals need. People coming home, depending on where they came from. If you came from the county, you were gone up to 22 months. You may need some things that are totally different from someone who's been in one of the 27 state facilities, or someone coming back from the federal jurisdiction system where you could have been outside of the state. People coming home that have been gone for long periods of time, for example, they're not used to modern technology. This kid, I spoke with him last week. He was in STI Albion. He knew about cell phones, but he didn't know really how to operate a cell phone properly. He's been gone for a while. He did not know that they are now talking buses. He does not know how to navigate the SEPTA system. He knows nothing about digital technology, and people are telling him, you got to scan a QR code. What is a QR code? So there's a lot of needs that justice-impacted individuals have. And as you re-enter, you realize that, you need services. And like I said, it's been that way when I came home, and it's still the same way now. I did a piece a couple of years ago, and it's like you wake up, you were growing up in America, and you wake up and suddenly you're in China, where everything around you is different, and the people seem to be speaking a different language.
It's hard for all of us to navigate new technology, so I can only imagine how hard it is for someone who's been in prison. Ms. Pam, when you re-entered, can you tell me what resources were available to you?
What I did before I turned myself in, which is unusual, there was one major organization in the city that was offering re-entry services. That was the Pennsylvania Prison Society. So what I did, I connected with them. I did their 3 weeks of re-entry programming. And when I came home, I was able to reconnect with them. And they were able, because they knew me as a prior client, they were able to connect me with employment. They actually hired me. But my situation, I know, is very unusual to the 350,000 justice-impacted individuals that are coming back to the city of Philadelphia. People coming home, we see them coming in the doors. They need housing. They need jobs. They need trauma services. They need, like I said, to learn to navigate the digital system. They need finances. They need case management. They need reconnection with their families. They need to even, learn how to go to an interview. It's a lot of different needs justice impacted individuals have. And one of the things that I say all the time is reentry is not cookie cutter. Your needs, depending on where you came from, are going to be probably different from mine. If I come from a domestic abuse situation, for example, before I went to prison, I will need healing. If you, for example, came from a situation where you lived a pretty cushy life and you just decided to embezzle some money or whatever it is, your needs are going to be different. And when I came home, I saw that and I continue to see it.
Now, how did you find out about the organization that kind of helped you navigate all of this? Was it while you were in prison?
No, I had a federal situation. And with the feds, when they find you guilty, they give you time to get your stuff in order. It could be a month or 2 months. I was blessed that I was given 2 months to get my house in order. If I had gone through the state system, when the judge finds you guilty, they put handcuffs on you and they take you to SCI Muncie. If you're in the county system, when the judge finds you guilty, handcuffs on you and you go to state road. With the feds, it's different. So I've got 2 months to get my house in order, sell my property, what I had to do. So while I was waiting to turn myself in, I started thinking, no, what am I going to do, Pam? You messed your whole life up. What are you going to do when you get out of the people's jails? So back in those days, they had the big, thick yellow directories, the yellow pages. And I had a lot of time on my hands. So I'm just scanning through and I saw this organization that says reentry. And I'm like, this sounds like what I'm trying to get. And the name had prison in it. So it was the Pennsylvania Prison Society. And I reached out to them, explained my situation to them. And I was fortunate enough, they were starting a reentry program the following week. And I was able to get in and participated in that program for the 3 weeks prior to my turning myself in. Again, this was unusual. And I usually advise people when I do pre-release work now, sometimes I get invited to go into different prisons, and I will usually invite the participants, the people behind the walls that I'm speaking to, start thinking about your release plan. Because reentry, as professionals, we know it, reentry starts the day you get locked up. You got to start thinking about what are you going to be doing when you come home. Pre-release is the first step of reentry. So I usually advise people start thinking about that plan. And that's what I did and was able to get the help that I needed.
Desmond, how did you get involved in this work?
So I worked for the state of Pennsylvania for probably 16 years. First with Senator Shirley Kitchen, who was very focused on criminal justice reform, advanced a lot of ban-the-box legislation, and actually passed some of that legislation before she left. And then I worked with Senator Street. But with Senator Street, I went directly into communications and criminal justice policy, and eventually doing a lot of work in clemency, helping people submit pardons applications and assisting them in getting their records cleared. I spent some time on the Lieutenant Governor's advisory board to the Board of Pardons, was able to see a lot of the structural inefficiencies that exist in the system that undermines the work that we all want to do for clemency or reentry, and was able to, advance policy with Senator Street to change some of those things to make it better, and had an opportunity to work with the city since they're revamping and expanding their services in terms of reentry through the NRCs, which are the community offices. And, we're about to do what we need to do to make sure that the resources are in people's communities who are coming home so they don't have to leave their communities in order to get help. The NRC is a neighborhood resource center, like most neighborhood resource centers, but these are going to be reentry focused. And I think that it's certainly contemporarily a new thing for the city. And as Ms. Pam said, there's such a suite of services that are needed. And the NRCs are going to cater to those needs. They're going to be core programming, of course, like clemency assistance, getting your record cleared, and career readiness, workforce development. But of course, there are also going to be needs assessments that focus on what the unique needs of that community might be, just to make sure we're meeting people where they are and getting them the resources that they need. So the first few centers are going to be in North Philadelphia. The very first one that exists right now is in partnership with Uplift Solutions, and it's at 2221 West Venango Street in the Hunton Park section. We are going to potentially have others as well in the North Philadelphia area. The Hunton Park location is a pilot that we know we're going to be successful in deploying. And then over a period of time, as we build capacity, the goal is to establish more across the city. But as of right now, we have workforce development opportunities, career readiness, community legal services, expungement clinics. We had an expungement clinic on the 18th. We had almost 100 people come out to get that record clearing started. And we'll be working with Council President Johnson for another expungement clinic on November the 15th in West Philadelphia. So, we're active. We hit the ground running, and we're ready to get to work.
We'll talk more about what these neighborhood resource centers can do after the break. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude. I'm so grateful for my mom, Linda, for her love and support. But there's another person we don't get to thank enough, ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/citycast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/citycast.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. So much of your personal info is out of your control, like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information, your identity, is vulnerable. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
You mentioned expungement. For folks who don't know exactly what that is, what does an expungement do for your record?
So clemency has a suite of services under it. And clemency are a variety of different ways that you can bring relief through a criminal record. You can expunge it, which is the most comprehensive relief. It means the destruction of your record. You can expunge charges that you were never convicted of. You can expunge charges that you were convicted of through first getting a pardon. And now once you get a pardon, there is an automated expungement for pardons. You can seal records through Clean Slate, which is a law that has multiple iterations, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, which seals non-conviction data, even seals some convictions, some felony convictions, low-level felony convictions after a period of time. So there are a suite of services that can be provided. We'll have lawyers on site to provide that assistance. And we'll also help people begin the pardons process to clear their records.
And Ms. Pam, they call you the reentry guru. So if folks don't get these types of resources that Desmond mentioned, I mean, the risk is that they end up back locked up, right?
Yes, they become recidivists. So this is why, again, as I mentioned earlier, we identifying that reentry begins behind the walls. The Office of Reentry Partnerships, currently, we are holding pre-release classes behind the walls for men and women. We want to make that more robust. We're also holding pre-release classes currently at one of the state prisons at SCI Chester, and we're hoping to expand to Phoenix shortly. So, because what I tell churches, people I meet on the street, everyone, you have a justice impacting individual who are coming home. Tell them as soon as they hit the bricks, as soon as they get here, try to align yourself with a reentry organization that would be able to help you. And I'm grateful that we actually now have the neighborhood resource centers, so people won't even have to come downtown. If you're in North Philly, close to Venango, you can find the resources that you need to help you become a productive citizen and not have to deal with recidivism by, aligning yourself with one of the neighborhood resource centers or, finding another organization that is doing reentry. But it is necessary because a lot of us cannot do it by ourselves. Something that I'm really adamant for is actually identifying the needs of justice impacted women versus men. As a formerly incarcerated woman, I realized that the services, the way that when they build the jails and the prisons, and the services that are being offered behind the walls are totally more focused to men than to women. In my reentry program, in my reentry life, when a man comes to our office and I ask this guy, well, how can we help you? He would say, Ms. Superville, I need to get a house and I need to get a job. A woman coming through the doors, when I ask her the same question, ma'am, I need to be made whole from this trauma and abuse that I've suffered. I need to be reconnected with my children. I need to be taught a skill where I can earn my own living and for the first time not have to depend on anybody. I need my self-esteem to be uplifted. So the needs of women coming home are different from men because the experiences when you become incarcerated as a female are totally different from those of the males. And it's something that I'm realizing even in the 14 years that I'm home, that is still not being addressed in a way that it should be addressed.
Do you feel, though, that, in some aspects, too, like men also have traumas and need to reconnect with family and children that were on the other side, right?
Right, but mothers, when you get incarcerated after a certain period of time, you were taking care of your children. Every mother, most mothers, and I have the numbers, are mothers to minor children. And when you get separated from your children, when you get locked up, a lot of men, they have a woman that would take care of their kids. A woman has to find a babysitter, a grandmother, or the system takes their children. That connection, that separation from a man from his children versus that from a woman from her children are two totally different experiences while you are behind the walls.
What about young people that are impacted by the justice system? Have they come through the neighborhood resource center? And if so, what are some of their needs that are maybe different from the folks that we've been talking about so far?
The expungement clinic we definitely had one or two people who were younger. One guy came with his mom. He began the process of clearing his record. He was on the younger side. But one thing I'll say is we are building out a juvenile cohort, which we'll be revealing pretty soon. So there will be a whole wing of ORP that's specialized for juveniles and the unique needs that they have.
What could we all be doing as Philadelphians to bridge the gaps or reduce some of the barriers experienced by returning citizens?
I think one thing that we can do is understand that there is a great value behind the wall. Understand that there's great value for our incarcerated community, especially those who've been there for a long period of time. We all know that people eventually age out of crime, and the longer you are incarcerated, the more likely you are to build skills, the more likely you are to age out of crime, the more likely you are to practice personal accountability as you move forward with your redemption story. And there have been many successful instances of that for people who have returned home and who have done great things. And I believe that it's important for us to tell those stories of justice impacted people who are successful because it reminds people that this isn't rhetoric. When we fight for criminal justice reform or when we want to make changes or empower our community who are justice impacted, it's because we know we have evidence, we have receipts for the quality of the community that is behind the walls and that deserves our time and deserves our effort to empower them and to uplift them.
What would success look like here? How do we know if the neighborhood resource centers have been successful?
We are going to make sure that there's retention. We're going to make sure that we're tracking, talking to people, making sure their needs are met, following up with people, whether it's workforce development, whether it's did you eventually get your record cleared? Was that expunged or was that sealed? If you come for benefits navigation, like did you end up getting signed up for LAHEAP? Did you end up getting housing resources? So there's going to be retention. We're going to have caseworkers on site. There's caseworkers here today. We've already started the ball rolling. And it's not just in providing the needs and services, but it's also staying connected to the community to ensure that their needs are being met.
And if I may also add, okay, I'm one of the people who came home and I'm doing really well, right? And I'm happy always to tell my story. And I think the voice of the people is the voice of God. So I think the more people that we help through these neighborhood resource centers, you're going to be seeing a more vibrant community. You're going to be hearing people saying, man, I came home and I went to that place and now I have a job and I'm going to school. And you have mothers saying, I'm so happy that this neighborhood resource center has empowered my child to really feel his self-worth. So we're going to be seeing and feeling the vibrancies in the communities that, I feel, when I go out and when I walk into rooms. And I think we're going to be seeing that effect, that positive effect, because this is the intent, why we even decided to open the neighborhood resource centers in the first place. You're going to be feeling and you're going to be hearing the good reports.
Miss Pam, Desmond, thank you both so much for your work and your passion for people in Philadelphia. And thank you for being here with me on CityCast Philly.
I appreciate you guys having us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
For more information on the resources we talked about today, give Desmond a call at 267-331-1545. Again, that's 267-331-1545. And we'll have a link to the next record clearing event on November 15th. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about the city's reentry-focused neighborhood resource center, tell someone you know who could benefit from this information. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. And be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city.